So as I mentioned, we are starting with Parshat Vayakel. This morning we'll be reading in Vayakel Pekude, the two last parashiyot of the book of Exodus, and we're beginning on page 552. So I think it was a few years ago, it was pretty soon after I started at Romemu, when I was speaking about Parashat Truma, and I kind of came clean that, and I think like many people, we're in the amazing, breathtaking narrative of Shemot, and we're passing through seas, we're liberated from Egypt, we're moving towards the promised land where, manna is falling from heaven, and then we're talking about poles and rings and curtains and we're the minutia and the real details of building the Mishkan. And although the idea of the Mishkan is beyond comprehension, it's delicious, and I could sit there all day. The minutia of building the Mishkan, of building this tabernacle, this dwelling place for God, was really hard. I imagine it's great for an architect, but for somebody who feels, could never do drafting or woodworking or any such gifts in any visual arts, it's very hard for me to read that. And I came clean about that. Now, the only thing worse than reading the minutia in Parshat Truma is reading it again. Because this week, there was an option. There was an option to give in Parshat Truma, to give all of the details. God is imparting it to Moshe. Moshe's on the mountain, and God says, you got to do this, got to do this, got to do this. And, and then Moshe comes back down and says, and it's brought to us in the Torah. It would have been great to say, and then Moshe said what God described. And they did it. That, and we would have had a shorter Torah. But that's not what happens. What happens is then there is a complete replication, like so close to the wording in Truma, revisiting every moment. This is what Moshe speaks to the Israelites, word for word what God said, and then the Israelites do everything that Moshe said, that God said to do. So I had this experience for the first time reading this. Instead of approaching it this year as, okay, we have to get through Vayakel Pekude, or actually let's pretend that latter part, we don't really have to talk about it because we're in the first few verses of Vayakel, and we can talk about Shabbat because Shabbat is, right at the beginning. But no, this year I had a different experience, and I'm excited to share it. I don't know, maybe, I hope it speaks to you. So, for the first time I read it as, I'm somebody who loves the vision, loves the big idea, and loves the dreaming, and even loves to begin thinking about what are the steps to get there. But oftentimes something gets stuck in the middle of the execution. Something in the process gets stuck, and I lose momentum, I lose time, I lose the coalition, the team, sense of team. Something breaks down in the process. And what I realized for the first time was we have more than any time management app could ever aspire to. We have in the Torah the beginning, the seed that's planted as a question, as a vision, as an idea of what would it be to build this Mishkan? What would it be to have this home? To the giving over the details of this is what it's going to take to get there. Transfer, building alliances. Who are my partners in this? I've got Moshe, I've got Bezalel, I've got Oholiab. This is my team. Building the team, imparting the directions to the team. Then the part where I generally get stuck is the team enacting each step, each really meticulous, boring, moment by moment task that needs to be accomplished, and then the moment at the end that would not be remotely as exciting if we didn't have the tediousness on the way here. That moment where it's done. And Rabbi Josh spoke about this last night, the moment where Moshe has completed, and all of the Israelites have completed this home that was just a few weeks ago a dream. And here it is. And we see the language is the same language. It's echoing to the language of creation, of God creating the world. And here we have created this. And we see right at the end of Pekudei, right at the end of our last parsha of Shemot, we have this moment where I can just imagine all of the Israelites standing back with awe and looking as the cloud, the presence of God, descends on the Mishkan, on the tabernacle. We've arrived. God has arrived. What we had dreamt of is now complete. So, the blessing I want to give this morning as we go in to read what really feels tedious is to think about, what is your vision? What is the vision that you had, the question that you had, the idea that you want to see into fruition, but is a long process? It is not, we're so, especially now when information travels so quickly, when we multitask and don't give anything a singularity of focus, the process, the long haul, the details, the act of, it's interesting because, we dream big, and we think of our vision, then we find our partnerships. Who's your Moshe? Who's God? Who's Moshe? Where is God in your team? That's also a question to put in there. Where is the divine imprint? Where is Joshua? Where is Spitzalel and Oholiab? Where are your consultants? Where are you? In the language of business or of consult, it's, Mocha. Who's the manager? Who's the owner? Who's the consultant? Who's the helper? Who's the approver? Is that right, Jane? That's the language. There are all these acronyms. Who is that in your team? And then here we learn as well in Parshat, from the last week's Parsha, not only does God give over all of each step along the way, you got to write it down. You got to write it down, 2 tablets, and you got to put it in a cloud, So what are you, how are you going with the transmission, the concretizing of the path that we have to travel, that you have to reach this goal? You got to write it down. And then you have to know, last week in Ki Tisa, that when everything, your entire process is upended and goes pear-shaped, and you come down the mountain and people are worshiping a golden calf, you need, you can break the tablets. You still need the cloud, though. Your server may go down, but you have the cloud. That you start again. You move back and you keep going forward, and you write it down again, and you bring it down. And this is this week in Vayakel Pekudei, where you get to cross it out. That's my most satisfying part. You've got the tablets, you've got your instructions, and then one task by one task, we're accomplishing. So I want to invite up for the first Aliyah, because I'm really feeling this year. And I want to invite up those who are, whether you're in a process, you're at the beginning of the process, but taking hold of this model of persevering and working through the boring, the monotonous details, but the process that needs to happen in order for this vision to be fully realized, to commit to that, to commit to your process wherever it is, because only on the other side of that grueling a process are you going to get to stand back and feel the presence as it descends on this fully functioning, fully built, traveling tabernacle. So I want to invite you up for the first Aliyah, wherever you are in your process, committing. for the first Aliyah.